more people are seeing their credit ratings decline. We're looking at record delinquencies on home equity loans and home mortgages. We're looking at record defaults on credit cards. We're seeing all of these problems. All of these are going to impact people's credit ratings. And if you've got a bad credit rating and you're being declared a potential terrorist, then obviously all of these other problems are going to be multiplied by the actions of the federal government. As you were saying, there's this amendment to the 2010 military appropriations bill that's going to give the Attorney General the authority to declare tax protesters as potential terrorists and terror suspects. And the problem is the U.S. government got everybody to say, okay, torture is okay if you're torturing the terrorists. Now that they've got that, they got their foot in the door, they're lowering the bar for what constitutes a terrorist so that more and more people can be put in there. And the government's going to say, well, you said it was okay to suspend the Bill of Rights for terrorists, and now you're all terrorists, so here we are. And it does feel like they're pushing as hard and as fast as they can. It feels more like panic than plan to me.
Well, that's a really good point. And if people think I'm joking about bad credit, you're put on the terror list, they made it secret 7 months ago in January. Hard to believe we're already into the 7th month of 2009. So 7 months ago, they made it secret. And it had 1,200,000+ on it then. And they were adding 24,000 on average a month. And federal marshals were in the Denver Post saying, we're just ordered if somebody takes a picture of their kid on the plane to go ahead and put them in a terror database for the rest of their life. If you have bad credit, people are on it. And they're admitting you can't get off of it. They won't tell you how they put you on it. So that's being litigated. So just like when wiretapping came out, and it came out they were warrantlessly wiretapping the American people in non-terror-related cases even, they just went and retroactively passed a law, just like retroactively passing a torture law. Now they're just trying to retroactively say the Attorney General's God, no judge, no jury. You don't know why you're on the list. You don't know you're on a list till you try to fly. Now they're saying can't go in national parks, can't have a job. Under the Real ID Act, if you're on that list, can't have a job. They're pushing people underground. But then they're going to offer the solution. Oh, you can go to a government program and get on the Trusted Traveler. We'll then do paperwork with you and let you put yourself into a type of probation with the government to work in government programs and to work in, what's the term they use? Community service. No judge, no jury, no arrest, no indictment. Just, you come serve us for a while. So, see, people have to go serve in compulsory service just to get off the list. And they're now saying, that's how we'll get you off the list. I mean, this is so Orwellian. This is so Kafkaesque, Mike.
Well, it's very much like the old Soviet Union. The Soviet Union went out of its way to find some reason to criminalize everybody so that they could just do what they wanted with them whenever they wanted. And basically, it's this kind of, we're seeing the same creeping tyranny here in the United States. And, when you have the idea that tax protesters are now considered terrorists, protesting against taxes is why this country exists in the first place and is not still a part of Great Britain. Protesting is protected under the First Amendment, and protesting against taxes is the very kind of political speech the First Amendment exists to protect. And so all of this is very unconstitutional. It's very blatant. I'm wondering, where's the United States Supreme Court on all of this? And ultimately, if the Supreme Court fails and the legislature fails to hold this executive in check, we're looking at a crisis that's looming on the horizon for the American people. And this is starting to get into that area of a saying that we have around here on our coffee cups: the fastest way to bring down a dictatorship is to force them to act like one where everybody can see it. Now the people are starting to see it.
Well, Mike, when you say the Bill of Rights and Constitution is terrorism, that's declaring war on America. This is openly anti-liberty. It's openly illegal to have the federal government seize GM and then sell the dealerships off to donors at discounted prices, and then to now have a bill where the Federal Reserve will control every facet of the economy. This has openly been announced. This is now admitted, but it's not being debated. And it looks like that's going to pass because they say, look, we won't turn the economy on until you give us this new power. And then there'll be a year later even more. Speak to that and the direct carbon tax that's now passed the House.
Okay, well, first of all, we're in a fascist economy right now in terms of the reason things are the way they are. Mussolini said that fascism should more properly be called corporatism, and that is when corporations and the government are in league together to basically exploit the common people, to extract wealth from them, to basically grind them down into poverty and grab all the goodies for themselves. That's why we're seeing this. As far as the Federal Reserve is concerned, we had Bernanke just last week implying that the Federal Reserve will crash the economy before they allow themselves to be audited. So they're trying to play the doomsday card on that. So really, we're a country that can't earn any money anymore. So the people in power are simply using any means they can to grab what is left and pull it to themselves.
By the way, he didn't imply. He said it is basically a dictatorship. If Congress tries, Article 1, Section 8 is Congress express power, to control the money supply or economic policy, that is an undue seizure of power. That's Congress seizing power, is his quote, and that the economy would go into depression and implode. So he's openly saying, look, I got a gun to your country's head. I run things. Sit down and shut up.
Well, the Federal Reserve, or the central banks, because we've had central banks before the Federal Reserve, but if you look at this lineup of history where Andrew Jackson revoked the charter of an earlier central bank because it was doing to the United States exactly what the Federal Reserve is doing today. It was impoverishing the ordinary working people. It was pulling all of the money to itself. It was above any control. Andrew Jackson revoked the charter. He survived an assassination attempt. Then you had Abraham Lincoln, who issued his greenbacks so he wouldn't plunge the country into debt to the central bank that was in existence then. He was assassinated and his greenbacks destroyed immediately. John F. Kennedy signed Executive Order 11110, issuing a new form of silver certificate, a debt-free currency for the American people to use. 5 months later, he was assassinated, and the U.S. notes that Kennedy created were pulled out of circulation. So there's an ongoing pattern here of a war going on between the bankers and the civilian government. And right now, our Congress appears to have changed sides and is working with the banks against the people, and that is fascism.
Well, it certainly is, and I'm going to go to some calls, but I wanted to bring this up to you. Senate blocks bill to audit the Fed as government prepares for a second round of looting. Paul Joseph Watson, July 7th, prisonplanet.com. It's up there right now, and he has links to all their statements. And the vice president is saying we need a second round. They're going to bill in the media a second round of stimulus. Oh, the economy was worse than we thought. We need more money. But wait, the actual banker bailout, as it was called, we truly named it, properly named it, the banker takeover. It said unlimited money, no oversight. The private Federal Reserve could steal as much money as it wanted. Now they won't say where the money went, but they, at the same time, publicly give it to Goldman Sachs and AIG and others. So they're taking it in private bonuses, record bonuses. So to simplify it, they got all the money and power earlier. Now they want the power to forcibly pirate and commandeer the rest of industry and the economy. That was a beta test, GM and Chrysler, to see if they could get away with that. And then now the Senate's saying there will be no vote in the Senate on H.R. 1207 to audit the private Fed. Instead, we're going to bill this as stimulus too and give them the dictatorial power in the fall, right when they're going to be fear-mongering about the bird flu and staging attacks on God knows what country might.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of fear-mongering. There's a lot of distractions. Michael Jackson's obviously one of them. The government and the bankers are terrified that the American people may be waking up a little bit faster than they were hoping. And the bottom line is, and I hate to be the one to say this because a major reason I've worked at What Really Happened for all these years was to avoid any kind of a violent revolution coming to this United States by encouraging our government and our industry to act a little bit more responsibly. Sadly, I don't think that's worked out. I think we are coming up on a point where we're going to see violence in the streets of America, and I don't like it, but I don't see any way to avoid it at this point.
And that's why the Attorney General's out giving speeches saying, we're going to put you without judge, without jury, without charges, without arrest, on list, and you're going to be homeless. And if you get uppity, we're going to send a SWAT team to kill you. I mean, and they're federalizing everywhere and openly saying, forget Al-Qaeda. We're not worried about them now. It's you. It's conservatives, it's gun owners, it's libertarians. The Army's coming after you now. And the Army suddenly is in all the major police departments, CIA local offices. I mean, hell is being released. But, Mike, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing. They want a conflict. See, why do they want a conflict? Or do you disagree? You think they just don't understand what they're about to do? Clearly they know.